You wake up at 6 in the morning, and before your feet touch the floor, you already feel it. That weight, that invisible heaviness that settles across your shoulders the moment consciousness arrives. Welcome to the corporate world, where carrying your cross isn't a metaphorical spiritual journey anymore. It's your actual daily reality. And if you're serious about understanding what that really means, subscribing to this channel will give you the perspective you need to navigate it honestly. Most people won't tell you the truth about what it takes to climb the professional ladder. They'll show you the highlight reel, the corner office, the business card with embossed lettering, the promotion announcement, but they won't show you the cost. They won't show you the mornings when you can barely lift your head off the pillow because the weight of expectations has become physical. They won't show you the moments when you're sitting alone in a conference room, staring at the empty chairs around you, realizing that all the success in the world feels hollow when there's nobody genuine left to share it with. The cross you carry in the corporate world is different from the crosses people carried centuries ago. It's not made of wood. It doesn't splinter your palms, but it's just as heavy. It's made of deadlines and performance metrics and the constant gnawing fear that you're not doing enough. It's made of the standards you've internalized from everyone around you, the voice in your head that sounds suspiciously like every critical comment you've ever received, magnified 1,000 times over. It's the weight of maintaining an image, of showing up as the version of yourself that fits into the corporate machine, not the version that actually exists when you're alone. When you first enter the working world, you don't realize this cross exists. You're too excited. You've got your new blazer, your leather briefcase that still smells like a factory, your shoes polished to a mirror shine. You walk into that office building and you feel invincible. You're going to climb, you're going to succeed, you're going to prove everyone wrong who ever doubted you. That's the promise you make yourself. That's the dream that gets you through the first few weeks, when everything is still shiny and new. But then something happens. The initial excitement fades. The novelty of the professional environment wears off. And what you're left with is the reality of what carrying your cross actually means. It means showing up when you don't want to. It means sitting through meetings that could have been emails, listening to people talk about things that don't matter, nodding along because that's what's expected. It means pretending to care about things you genuinely don't care about, because caring about the right things is part of the corporate currency. It means checking your emails at 10 at night, on weekends, during vacations, because the assumption is that you're always available, always ready, always on. The worst part is that nobody tells you explicitly that this is what you're signing up for. If they did, you probably wouldn't sign up. Instead, they imply it. They show you pictures of people who've made it, and they say, you could be like them. You just have to work hard. You just have to be dedicated. You just have to care more than everyone else. And because you're ambitious, because you believe in yourself, because you were probably raised to believe that hard work pays off, you accept the cross. You pick it up, you start carrying it. At first, it's manageable. The weight doesn't seem so bad. You're still riding the high of professional identity. You've got business cards now. People call you by your title. When you're at a party and someone asks what you do, you have a real answer. You have a career. That matters. That feels real. So the weight of the cross is offset by this sense of accomplishment, this sense of belonging to something bigger than yourself. But then the years start adding up. 1 year becomes 2, 2 becomes 5, 5 becomes a decade. And somewhere along the way, you realize that the weight of the cross has compounded. It doesn't just contain the pressures of your current job anymore. It contains the weight of every job you've had before this, every mistake you've made, every project that didn't go as planned, every criticism you've internalized, every moment you felt like you weren't enough. The cross becomes heavier and heavier, and you're still walking, still climbing, still pretending that everything is fine. The corporate world is particularly skilled at making you carry a cross while convincing you that it's not really a cross. They call it dedication. They call it commitment. They call it going the extra mile. They build entire cultures around the idea that suffering at work is noble, that grinding yourself down is a sign of ambition, that if you're not exhausted and stressed and constantly on the verge of burning out, you're not working hard enough. This is one of the most dangerous lies that the corporate world tells, and it's a lie that millions of people accept every single day. If this resonates with you, please like this video, because these truths need to be heard more often. What makes this so insidious is that the lie comes wrapped in the language of success. They tell you that the people at the top are there because they were willing to carry the heaviest cross. They worked the longest hours. They sacrificed the most. They gave up the most. And implicit in that message is the threat. If you don't do the same, if you try to set boundaries, if you try to maintain some kind of balance in your life, you will fall behind. You will be left behind. You will be replaced by someone who is willing to carry the cross without complaining. So you carry it. You carry it through your 20s when you're supposed to be figuring out who you are and what you want from life. But instead of exploring, instead of experimenting, instead of making mistakes and learning from them, you're climbing. You're networking. You're attending professional development seminars. You're making sure that every single action you take can be justified in terms of how it advances your career. You carry it through your 30s when you're supposed to be enjoying the fruits of your labor. But instead, you're fighting for the next promotion. You're competing with people who are just as ambitious as you are, just as smart as you are, just as willing to sacrifice. The goalposts keep moving. Just when you think you've reached the top, you realize there's another level above you, another rung on the ladder. And if you have a family, if you have children, if you have people who depend on you for more than just a paycheck, the cross becomes even heavier. Because now you're not just carrying the weight of your own ambition, you're carrying the weight of providing for them, of giving them the life you promised them, of showing up as a present and engaged parent or partner while simultaneously giving everything you have to your job. The cross splinters under the pressure. It becomes almost unbearable, and yet you keep carrying it because the alternative feels impossible. So what's the truth about carrying your cross in the corporate world? The truth is this: you get to choose whether you carry it at all. You get to choose how heavy it is. You get to choose when you put it down. The corporate world wants you to believe that the cross is mandatory, that it's simply the cost of doing business, that suffering at work is inevitable. But it's not inevitable. It's a choice. And once you realize that it's a choice, everything changes. This doesn't mean you quit your job tomorrow. This doesn't mean you abandon your ambitions or your goals. This doesn't mean you stop caring about your career or about doing excellent work. What it means is that you get to redefine what success looks like for you. You get to decide which parts of the cross you're willing to carry and which parts you're going to put down. You get to decide that some things matter more than climbing, more than the title, more than the paycheck. You get to decide that your mental health matters. You get to decide that your relationships matter. You get to decide that your time matters. You get to decide that sleep matters. You get to decide that having interests outside of work matters. You get to decide that being a whole human being, not just a productive unit of labor, matters. And when you make these decisions, when you actually start putting down parts of the cross and refusing to carry them anymore, something remarkable happens. The people around you start to question their own relationship with the cross too. But here's the thing that the corporate world doesn't want you to know. Most of the suffering is optional. It's not baked into the system. It's not required. It's only required if you accept the belief system that suffering equals success, that pain equals progress, that exhaustion equals excellence. If you reject that belief system, if you refuse to participate in the mythology that the corporate world has built around sacrifice and struggle, suddenly you have options. You can be ambitious without being self-destructive. You can be successful without burning yourself out. You can climb without sacrificing everything that makes you human. You can build a career that supports your life instead of consuming it. You can set boundaries without being labeled as uncommitted. You can say no without feeling guilty. You can ask for what you want instead of settling for what you're given. You can advocate for yourself without being seen as difficult or demanding. But this requires something that most people in the corporate world have never learned how to do. It requires the ability to separate your worth from your work. It requires understanding that your value as a human being is not determined by your job title or your salary or your career achievements. It requires believing that you are enough, just as you are, without needing to prove anything to anyone. And it requires the courage to live that belief in an environment that is specifically designed to make you doubt it. The corporate world will test this belief every single day. It will send you messages through every channel imaginable. It will show you people who are ahead of you and make you feel like you should be there too. It will celebrate the people who sacrifice the most. It will reward the people who say yes to everything. It will punish the people who set boundaries by passing them over for promotions, by giving them less desirable projects, by making them feel like they're not team players. It will test your commitment in 1,000 small ways every single day. And yet, there are people who do it. There are people who work in the corporate world and manage to carry their cross lightly. They do excellent work. They get promotions. They make good money. They build successful careers. But they also have time for their families. They also have hobbies and interests. They also sleep at night. They also take vacations where they actually rest, instead of just working remotely from a beach somewhere. They also maintain friendships outside of work. They also remember who they are underneath the title and the business card. How do they do it? They do it by being intentional about what they accept and what they refuse. They do it by having clear boundaries and defending those boundaries fiercely, even when it costs them something in the short term. They do it by remembering that a job is something they do, not something they are. They do it by refusing to accept the mythology of the hustle. They do it by understanding that taking care of themselves is not selfish, it's necessary. They do it by being willing to walk away from a job or a situation that demands they carry a cross that's too heavy to bear. They also do it by being honest about what they want. Instead of accepting the default assumption that everyone wants to climb the ladder as high as possible, as quickly as possible, they ask themselves what they actually want. Maybe they want to climb. Maybe they want to stay in the same position because it gives them the stability and the time they need for other things. Maybe they want to move to a different industry entirely. Maybe they want to start their own business. Maybe they want to work part-time. Maybe they want to do something completely different that has nothing to do with what they studied in college. The point is, they get to choose, and that choice is available to you too. The truth about carrying your cross in the corporate world is that it's not mandatory to carry a heavy one. You can work hard without working yourself to death. You can be successful without sacrificing your humanity. You can climb without losing yourself. You can build a career that you're proud of without building a life that you resent. But it requires you to wake up and recognize what you've been accepting as inevitable, and then to consciously choose something different. It requires you to look at the weight you've been carrying and to ask yourself honestly, is this weight real? Or did I accept it because someone told me I should? Which parts of this cross do I actually believe in, and which parts am I carrying just because I'm scared of what will happen if I put them down? What would I do differently if I knew that my worth was not determined by my career? What would I want if I wasn't afraid? These are not easy questions to answer, especially if you've spent years not asking them. These are not easy decisions to make, especially if you've spent years accepting the default. But they are necessary questions. They are necessary decisions, because the alternative is to spend the rest of your life carrying a cross that you never chose, climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong building, succeeding by a definition of success that doesn't actually make you happy. So the real truth about carrying your cross in the corporate world is this. You are the one carrying it, which means you are the one who gets to decide whether to keep carrying it. You are the one with the power, not your boss, not your company, not the market, not the economy. You. And that power is available to you right now.